This video was brought to you by my Patreon. In Rainbows, Radiohead's 7th album is not a 10 out of 10. At least not in my eyes. Now, this isn't bait, this isn't me trying to be different. I genuinely think that this album has problems that are worth discussing. Now, of course, if you think this album is a 10 out of 10, that's fine. The whole interesting thing to me about this discussion is the fact that I feel so differently than everybody else. And I'd love to hear the In Rainbows defenders explain why they think I'm wrong in the comments. But first, hear me out. Firstly, In Rainbows is not anywhere near a bad album by any stretch. Right now on screen is my ranking of the album, and if you're confused by the two different scores, just go ahead and view these two head notes. So, what am I saying? Why do I not like this album as much as everybody else does? First, how about we zoom out and talk about some of my opinions on other Radiohead albums? I feel similarly that OK Computer is also a smidge overrated, but not as egregiously. I'm a big fan of the middle Radiohead albums. Kid A, Amnesiac, and Hail to the Thief. These three albums probably do compose my top 3 ranking, but I might also throw in a moon-shaped pool, depending on how I'm feeling. Amnesiac is my personal favorite, even though I acknowledge that the other two might be a little bit better. Kid A and Amnesiac really lean into their abstractness. They're a little weird, and at times they come across as pretentious. There are several songs that I didn't like at first, and a few songs on them both that I still don't. Hail to the Thief, on the other hand, is a little different. It's more grounded in what it's saying, and it has a clearer message all throughout. It kind of returns to the pre-Kid A days with a more straightforward rock sound. Yet at the same time, it keeps some of that more abstract feeling. Although I'd argue it doesn't always succeed at this. But the important thing is that Hail to the Thief is about something. It's got a political edge, it's criticizing Tony Blair and George Bush. And even when the songs are not explicitly about these figures, you can feel the anger towards them permeating it. So if I'm such a big Hail to the Thief fan, why am I not as big of a fan as In Rainbows? It also is more of a straightforward rock album than Kid A and Amnesiac are. Firstly, in contrast to Hail to the Thief, In Rainbows doesn't have a message. Tom York is sad, but he's always sad. A good number of the songs on In Rainbows seem to be about love. Either lost love or prevailing new love. But these things don't really feel connected. Take A Moon-Shaped Pool, which I mentioned earlier. This album, in my eyes, is very much about Tom York's divorce, and you can feel that throughout the entire thing. There's a certain cold and dark sadness that really just elevates every single track. But because in 2007 Tom York was happily married as far as we know, none of the sadness has any real bite to it. To me, Nude is all of Radiohead's worst elements put into one song. Unintelligible high-pitched whining from Tom York, nonsense lyrics, and a pretty minimal instrumentation. Weird Fishes has that great part where he says, but aside from that, I've always felt that that song was slightly overrated. As far as sad songs go, Reckoner is genuinely great, and House of Cards and Videotape are just super boring to me. To me, those are all the sad songs on In Rainbows. And this isn't me talking about lyrics, this is just how these songs make you feel from listening to them. Radiohead's lyrics haven't always been at the forefront of their music, but this also leaves half the album on the table. 15 Step is pretty decent, although I'm not sure what it's about. I've heard some interpretations that it's about suicide, but me personally, that's never how I've taken it. Body Snatchers is also pretty good, but just like 15 Step, it's not too impressive to me. All I Need is also genuinely great, as is Jigsaw Falling Into Place. And Faust Arp, or however you say it, is just boring. But see the way that I had to divide the album up in two when speaking about its individual tracks? This ties back into what I was saying earlier. In Rainbows does not do a good job at coming together as a full piece. There doesn't really seem to be a central theme tying them. Now I can already hear it, people in the comments asking how I could possibly say this about In Rainbows, while also saying that Amnesiac is my favorite Radiohead album. And I don't think that these people are silly to ask this. Amnesiac, seemingly intentionally, is without a central theme, as though it were designed to just put together the weirdest and most discordant songs from one session into the same album. I could make a really boring avant-garde argument for that is the point, it's amnesiac, but I think that's boring. The truth is, Amnesiac is just carried by its individual tracks. Instead of a more conventional and straightforward acoustic guitar approach, Amnesiac is deliberately strange. But it's not the strangeness that makes it good, it's the fact that the songs are just really good that makes it good. So, okay. I'm not as big of a fan of some songs on In Rainbows compared to other Radiohead albums. Is this really worth talking about? Some guy's got In Rainbows as his number 5 choice instead of being in his top 3. Who cares? Seemingly a lot of people. This album is everywhere. Any music discourse, any subreddit, any Discord server, any community forum, anywhere you go, In Rainbows is brought up as not only one of the best Radiohead albums, but one of the best albums of all time. It's number 3 on rateyourmusic.com, number 5 on albumoftheyear.org. The album art has become a cultural icon. I have its vinyl on display in my apartment, despite the fact that there are other Radiohead records that I own and like more, just because I know people will recognize it, and because it's a good conversation starter. But the truth is, I'm kind of baffled. I don't get it. In Rainbows is both more human than Kid A and Amnesiac, but also more abstract than Hail to the Thief. And some would argue that that makes for a good middle ground, but in my opinion, it makes for an awkward middle child. One of the things I've really come to notice is that I love listening to the album's individual songs when they come on in a playlist. But the actual tracklist to In Rainbows just does not flow well at all. Normally when I have this critique of an album, I will come up with my own alternative track listing that I feel makes the songs flow better into each other. But for In Rainbows, I genuinely have no idea how to fix it. If anything, I think this is the best with what they've got. Any other order just seems kind of wrong. So I don't know, are these songs just doomed to not come together into an album very well? Maybe. And all of this is neglecting the Disc 2 portion of In Rainbows. To be fair, I think many people disinclude this when discussing the album. I'd be shocked if most people even knew that it existed. And I've only listened to it once when I was going through their entire discography. From what I remember, it had some really great songs, but I'd need to go back and re-listen to give it a proper appraisal. I'm guessing that many of you who are listening right now both understand what I'm saying, but also completely disagree. And I think that's great. I would love to join the conversation on this album as one of its fellow fans. But as things stand, I just don't get it. So I'm hoping that maybe some of you will contribute to this discussion and explain why you think In Rainbows works for you. I only have one close friend in real life who has listened to as much Radiohead as me, and he seems to agree that it's not really that great either. So, I don't know. Has this album just been circle-jerked beyond what it's meant to be? Is it something mediocre that everyone has convinced themselves is great? I would guess probably not. So I'd like to hear your thoughts. Perhaps it's worth mentioning that I don't really think any Radiohead album is a 10 out of 10. Not because I'm one of those people who thinks that no album can be a 10 out of 10 because everything has subjective flaws. I think that's a really dumb way of scoring things. It's just that I'm not as big of a Radiohead fan as some other people might be. Thank you to Moon Fogar and Diego Badia for your support.